First of all, the Shaykh praised Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He allowed us to visit this country and to come and to visit our fellow brothers and sisters in Islam and share this knowledge. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this gathering a gathering of knowledge where we increase in knowledge and faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The topic that we have chosen for today is the topic of envy and the evil eye. This topic is a topic that's related to our belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's related to having the correct belief, the correct tawheed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A Muslim must always seek knowledge that is beneficial, and this is of the most greatest, most beneficial knowledge, the knowledge of his belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we ask most people about what they know about envy and the evil eye, most people will say that we've heard about it, but we don't really believe in it. That doesn't really, it's maybe like superstition. Or sometimes you may ask people and they say, yeah, we've heard about it, but it doesn't really affect, or its effect is minimal, or if someone's affected, it's not something that can be easily overcome. So many people don't know the great threat and the risk of the issue of envy and the evil eye. If we want to know the threats of the issue of envy and the evil eye, and you want to understand it in the correct way, I'll be presenting this issue in a different way, different than the traditional way, different than how it's presented normally in books, or maybe hear it from scholars or things like that. Maybe they will start to speak about the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that says, Al-Aynu Haqq, that the evil eye is true. Or maybe you hear the hadith that encourages a person that when he sees something that he likes in his brother, to say, Allahumma barik lah, may Allah bless him, or to say words that invoke Allah's blessing. Or maybe a person will hear that the cure for the evil eye is to ask the person that has given the evil eye to bathe, and the collected water from that bathing to be poured on the afflicted person, and they will be relieved from their affliction. We will address the issue in a different way. Let us take, for example, the swine flu that a few years ago the whole world was crazy about. And really, if you want to look at it, swine flu and other such epidemics, they only last for a short amount of time. When it's happening, everyone's going crazy about it. But then now you look back and it doesn't really exist anymore. No one really mentions it anymore. Before the chicken flu and then the mad cow, they come and then they go. They last for a year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever it is. It's something that is an epidemic for a certain amount of years and then it goes. But look at how people reacted at the time. And even when we look back at it and let us really judge it, first of all, it's an epidemic that only lasts for a certain amount of time, 1 year, 2 years, and then it goes and disappears. No one hears about it anymore. And it doesn't affect everyone. They talk about it, and everyone thinks that they're going to get affected by it, but if you look at the numbers and the proportions and the possibilities that you will get affected, it's minimal. And even those who get affected, very, very few of them actually die from that disease. And see the reaction of the people when it comes to this thing. You find people so worried and so scared, and people start spreading the news of this and scaring people about going out, about interacting with people. Some people walk around with masks. The Shaykh is saying he even saw pictures of people placing masks on their dogs and even on the pigs. And children going to school wearing masks. People are so worried about this affliction. And likewise, many, many other diseases similar to this, whether it's swine flu or the chicken epidemic, or the cow, or whatever it may be. So this is how people deal with such sicknesses and epidemics. But how about a sickness or an affliction that a person is exposed to not only for a specific amount of time, like these diseases and epidemics we've been speaking about. We're talking about something that you are exposed to from the moment you are born until the moment you die. We are talking about something that not the doctors have spoken about, The doctors who are human beings, and they may be right and they may be wrong. We're speaking about an affliction that Allah and His Messenger ﷺ have warned the Muslims to be wary about. Why, when it comes to other diseases, we are so precautionary, but when it comes to diseases that are known, diseases that afflict in a more severe way, an affliction that is from the time you are born until the time that you die, we find that people are not so cautious. So now let us define what is meant by the evil eye and what is meant by envy. Of the best definitions is the definition of Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, that he said that evil eye is when a person looks at something, when he looks at it with love or a good look, as a look of appreciation. It could be a look of appreciation and love, or could be a look of hatred and ill intent and evil that affects the person that person is looking at. A person is afflicted in that thing that he has looked at, whether it's a look of good or whether it's a look of displeasure and hatred. And this look doesn't have a physical, like you can't see the look affecting, like you can't see the look traveling. So the Shaykh gave an example of, for example, radio frequency. When you use your remote control, it goes from the remote control device and it affects, for example, the television, or opens the car door. So it's something that goes directly from one thing to another and you don't see it traveling. So that is what the evil eye is. It's a look of, either could be a look of love and goodness and appreciation, or could be a love of evil and ill intent. Whereas envy and hasad is when a person, he wishes the removal of a blessing from someone. He sees someone has health, he has strength, he has children, he has wealth, and he wishes for that blessing to be removed from that person. He just doesn't wish to have like what he has. He sees someone who's got wealth, he wants to have wealth like him. He sees he has got children, he wants to have children like him. No, it's worse than that. That he wants that blessing to be removed from that person, for whatever reason it may be. That's the definition of envy. Is there a difference between envy and evil eye? Now the definition of envy and evil eye, they are common in some things and they're different in some things. So both the evil eye and envy affect the person, affect the other person. But the difference is with evil eye is that it could come from a person who doesn't intend evil to the other. It could come from a person who actually likes something in that person. It could be affect someone that he loves and he doesn't wish evil for them. A person, as Ibn al-Qayyim he says, can even bring evil eye to his own self. But when it comes to envy, also evil eye, or giving the eye, usually it comes in the form of a looking, when you look at something. And as well, usually comes in something specific. So you see someone's car, for example, that you like, the eye could affect the car by looking and at that specific thing. Envy, on the other hand, usually is evilly intended. And it's not specifically by looking, could be by hearing something, and it can affect not only specific things, but it can affect a person generally. That person has envy of that person, the envy will not only affect a particular blessing, it could affect all of his blessings. The evil eye can come from jinn as well as humans. So a person can be affected by the evil eye from a jinn, just as a person can be affected by evil eye from the humans. Allah Ta'ala says, وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ, and from the evil of the envier when he envies. And this envier could be anyone, as Allah Ta'ala says, مِنَ الْجِنَّةِ وَالنَّاسِ, from jinn and from mankind. And this is what Ibn al-Qayyim has said about these verses. And as well, the envy of the jinn is something that is established, and the first one to envy was Shaitan himself, Iblis, when he envied Adam alayhi salam, and because of his envy he wished harm, and he wished to take Adam and all of his progeny to the hellfire with him. What is translated, the al-ayn, translated in English is the evil eye. It's not probably an accurate translation, because the eye is not always evil. The eye can come from someone who likes the other person, or doesn't intend evil, but its effect is harmful. So now that we know where the eye comes from, where the eye comes out from, what causes the eye to come, and how envy comes and how it affects, must we believe in it? Yes, we must believe in it, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned it in His book, and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said in his words are not from his desire, but rather they are revelation from Allah. And there is no lie or doubt in the words of Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Al-aynu haqq," that eye is true, and that means the eye exists and its effect is true. Consider the words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this hadith. If we were to ask you, what is the greatest power in the world? What is the strongest thing, the most destructive weapon in the world? Maybe many of you would say, maybe the atomic bomb, nuclear weapon. The eye is stronger even than the nuclear weapons. If I was to ask you, what is the fastest thing in the world? Maybe someone would say, something travels at the sound of light, something travels at the sound of something travels at the speed of sound, or something travels at the speed of light. The eye is the fastest thing that travels. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, وَلَوْ كَانَ شَيْءٌ سَابِقُ الْقَدْرِ لَسَبَقَتْهُ الْعَيْنِ. If something was going to beat the ordainment, then it would be the eye. Nothing beats the ordainment of Allah, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's ordainment is kun fayakun, be and it is. If there was something that would beat that, then it would be the eye. So the eye is the fastest thing after the ordainment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's in the speed of the eye. So someone can look at something and give it the eye, and you don't even have a chance. It hits it straight away. As for its destructive power, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, the eye is true, it enters a man into his grave, and it enters the camel into the pot. That a person can be affected with the eye, that it causes him to enter the grave, it causes him to die. So people can die from the eye. And also it causes the camel to go into the pot, meaning that someone's eye can affect the camel. He sees a camel that he likes or whatever, he can give it the evil eye, he can get sick, and so the owner of the camel will see no way but to slaughter the camel and put it in the pot, or else it will die, and after it dies he can't benefit from it. Also, the Prophet ﷺ, he said that the eye can affect a person so much that he will climb a high mountain and he will throw himself from it. Also, another narration says that the eye is true, it can destroy a high mountain. A high mountain, think of the highest mountain, the eye can destroy it. And that's, no weapon in the world can destroy a mountain in one hit. Many people, they'll say, I've heard of stories that I know a man who was driving in a car and someone looked at his car or gave the car the evil eye, an amazing thing happened to it. It flipped, or someone who was building a house and it caused the house to collapse or the room to collapse. All of these things, they show us the strength and the threat of the evil eye. And as well, what makes it worse is that you don't know where it can come from. It can come from a human, it can come from a jinn. You don't know where it can come from or from who it can come from. Whether you see the person or not. All of this, it shows us how much Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He protects that person. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's protection. That how many things can go wrong to you, and it's only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who protects you from all of this harm. if the Shaykh is saying, if I was to say that most of you here will die because of the eye, do you believe this? The Prophet ﷺ said that most people from my ummah will die after the ordainment of Allah from the eye. Most people from my ummah, after the ordainment of Allah, the cause of their death will be the eye. So the Prophet ﷺ said, most of my ummah will die after the ordainment of Allah from the eye. So the Prophet ﷺ is saying most of the people. So most is over 50%, 70%. Allahu A'lam. So if you consider this, and you see, for example, now let us think about this in a practical way. You find people, they go to hospitals, or they may go to mental institutes, or they go to places for treatment, psychological treatment or physical treatment. Many of the times they are afflicted by the eye. You find people, maybe you find they die in a car accident, or they die from cancer, or they die in a fire, or they die of a heart attack, or anything else, but you'll find that the original cause of that is from the eye. The Prophet ﷺ, he warned his companions from the eye. These are the companions. These are the best after the prophets. These are those who used to fast and used to pray the night prayers and remember Allah and do all the dhikr when they leave their house and coming into their house, and all of on the best level of worship and on all the occasions. And still the Prophet ﷺ ordered them, and he said, seek protection from the eye. These days we come and we tell a person, beware of the eye, seek protection from the eye. They'll say, no, it's not. They'll make little of the situation. They say, I don't need to, I'm already doing good, I'll be protected. This is the Prophet ﷺ telling the companions of the companions, radiallahu anhum. So who are we compared to them? Who are we when Jibreel alayhi salam, the archangel, he comes and he would read over the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam cures from the eye. Jibreel came to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam and read cures for him. He would say, Bismillah urqiq min kulli shay'in mu'dhik. He would say, in the name of Allah, I read over you from everything that would harm you. Min sharri kulli nafsin, from the evil of every eye, of every soul that brings an eye. Min sharri kulli nafsin, aw ayni hasidin, or from the eye of an envious person. Allahu yashfik. May Allah cure you. Bismillah urqiq. In the name of Allah, I read over you. So if this is the angel Jibreel reading these words over the Prophet ﷺ to protect him from the eye, or to cure him from the eye. The Prophet ﷺ, even though he was the Prophet, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised to protect him from the people, and he was the greatest worshipper and the one who feared Allah the most, he used to pray at night until his feet would crack, and this is how he would protect himself from the eye. Even the disbelievers of Quraysh would seek to harm the Prophet ﷺ with the eye. And they went and they asked a tribe called Bani al-Asad. And this tribe of Bani al-Asad were people renowned for giving the evil eye. Some people, it's something hereditary that they give the evil eye. It's something in their blood, they do it without even trying. Some people, they'll see a bird flying in the sky and they look at it and it'll fall down dead. It comes easy or naturally to them. These people, they used to be asked to fast for 3 days so that that their evil souls would be nourished, and then they would be brought in front of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Quraysh asked them to stand in the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam so that when they see the Prophet, they would give him the evil eye. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned this in the Quran in the end of Surah Al-Qamar, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, and they wish to make you slip with their sight, their absarihim. They wish to make you slip and fall and die from their eyes. The eye and envy affects a person in every possible way. It can affect a person in his religious affairs. It can affect a person in his worldly affairs. So even in his religion and his religious practice, it could be affected by the eye. And there are many examples of this, and the Shaykh has seen many situations But he says we've seen people who, for example, recently became religious and started to learn Quran and memorize Quran, and for example, they had a very good memory in memorizing a lot of Quran, and they were affected by the eye and they weren't able to memorize Quran. Or a story of a woman. She could be affected in her prayer. She prays at night or whatever. There's a story of a woman. She used to lead other women in prayer, and she used to pray long prayers, especially in the sujood, making very long sujood. The women that were speaking about her, mentioning her, until she got affected by the eye, and she actually gave up the prayer altogether.